Hi, everybody. Welcome again on a Saturday evening or Sunday morning, depending on when you listen to this. This is Dr. Charles E. Clough again, Dr. Chuck, and it's in August. Hard to believe. Speaking for Church of Truth Center of Awakening Consciousness, and hoping I have some thoughts that will be interesting and spiritually stimulating. Let me start again with a prayer, our general prayer. Gracious God, please leapfrog over the distances so those listening hear this as if we are all together in our peaceful sanctuary. We are still spending a lot of time with ourselves nowadays. Being confined to home is not easy for those who always have things they want to do, and I'm one of those. Otherwise, we would be busy going here and there. We have our minds elsewhere by watching television, using our computers, and talking on our cell phones. But the body is not going anywhere. Our bodies are in lockdown. That is, unless we have a lot of imagination, energy, and discipline. When exercising at a gym or a health facility, others tend to stimulate our output. When alone, it seems harder to do what we find really hard to do. Would very many of us work out if we did not have to? We're finding that out, aren't we? We know our body's perimeters, but what is going on with our feelings about ourselves while in this virus-allotted time is another thing. How do we see ourselves when having so much time to stand in front of the mirror? Two words may help us take a look at this. I was reading a magazine this week, and for some reason the word inhabiting caught my attention. Jumping into my consciousness was this awareness. There was only one letter difference between inhabiting and inhibiting. Inhabiting is being in a place we settle down in. It has the picture of relaxedness and a feeling of home. This word took me back to our mountain home that was plush with windows. One could sit in a chair and look out of the windows into space and beautiful mountain terrain. We inhabit the residence we live in. We make them comfortable and friendly. We like being there. And using this metaphor, we inhabit our bodies. Inhibiting promotes the opposite picture. It depicts restraint and holding back. It connotes not being free, being suppressed. One is unable to do or be who or where they want to be because of these restrictions. Settings don't feel natural when we are inhibited. Being in our own bodies can be inhibiting if not comfortable with ourselves. And guess what that one letter is that changes these two words into opposites? It is the letter I. This really caught my attention. Of course, we know what the I stands for, the ego, the unrestrained self. This is an important awareness, the unrestrained self. Nothing is wrong with ourself, for it is who we are. But when we get carried away with ourselves, instead of making environments comfortable and friendly in habits, they become uncomfortable places where one cannot be oneself. It is also interesting that the letter I, when capitalized, looks a lot like a 1. Ego makes one function as if thinking they are number 1. In the book A Course of Love, The use of individuation, that's a good word, individuation and distinction, describe being oneself without creating a feeling of separation when relating and connecting with another. Can we be individuals in a way there is no separation, no judgmental comparisons? Being in the same habitat gives this picture of oneness. Self does not have to be ego-dominated. Self can be the wonderful recognition of the person we are while accepting others as being the selves they are, none better than the other. It would be so good if we saw ourselves as part of a smooth whole, like being in a circle. There are no beginning nor endings in a circle, no start, no first, no last person. This is so much better than a picture of broken straight lines that don't connect. Our world is an example of how things are when those in charge see the world in disconnection. Some of our leaders even promote this detachment, believing they and we are better and can stay better by keeping away from others, unlike themselves and us. Sad. The members of an orchestra look around and see the other instruments as adding to the group and thus the performance. Players are never jealous of the musicians or instruments beside them. In fact, if the other instruments were not there, the performance would not be the same. Conversely, we inhibit ourselves and others from being free to be themselves when we insert into situations our attempt to aggrandize ourselves. We inhibit others from being who they are when we are overly impressed with who we are. Not a good thing for camaraderie, harmony, or peace. At the same time, though, we do not want to underrate ourselves. Being special says there's no one like us. How true that is. Our challenge, however, is how to accentuate the importance of the persons we are without making ourselves more than we are. How do we individuate and be different than others without comparisons, categorizations, or putting everyone into classes and groups without believing they are of different value? This is one of today's big challenges, and it's mixed into the cultural and immigration issues always going on, actually from the beginning of history. By making us individuals, God has actually given us a lot of power and control over ourselves. Look at the power we have to be ourselves, who we are, how we want to be, and the kind of person we can show up as. We can think what we want to think. We can act like we want to act. We can determine the person we are, loving, kind, forgiving, accepting, or otherwise. If we want, we can have control over how we are. How good is that? This is why we are accountable, because we are the cause of everything that has to do with how our inner lives are being, how our inner selves are being. We can't control all the circumstances, but we can be in charge of how we will be in those circumstances. How powerful is that? You can put me in a situation, but you cannot determine or control how I will be in that situation. Can't we look in the mirror and affirm the person we see as being who we are? We can take that person from the mirror, to wherever we want to go and to be however we want to be. Inside that person in the mirror is the presence of God, the presence of God's Spirit. Look deep into your eyes and see that good God self in there. One of the authors of a book I was reading suggested getting into a private space and sitting down with a hand mirror and looking into your eyes until you start seeing through your physical eyes into your deeper self. In there is a smiling self that you really want to come to the surface. I did that a few times, and it was a very encouraging experience. You ought to try it. It takes a while looking deep into your eyes to get past mental distractions, but as you keep the focus, you will be surprised at what happens to your face. We probably should do that regularly. God's presence within us is our biggest fan. God is all for us and wants us to see that. How big it is to God that we realize our value to everything around us. We are God showing up in us and God showing up in those around us, even in those that we just have a touch contact with. That's a little moment that God has a contact with them. While we inhabit our places of residence, including our own bodies, let's not inhibit ourselves or anyone else from the freedom that God wants us all to have as we are ourselves. Let's enjoy looking into our subconscious and spiritual mirror to see the good God persons we really are deep down inside. As we grow spiritually, that deep inside more and more begins to flow out, and that's what other people see. When we can go out again, we can have a better and a fresh self-awareness of others seeing God in us and with us. How good that will be for us and the small part of the world that we are able to touch. We really can help make the world better. And so it is.
Don't hold on to your dreams. Dreams can melt like the snow. They're not real. I wish you could feel the joy of letting go. Don't hold on to your past. Seasons come and they go. Don't attach to the things that catch you and stop you letting go. Put your hands in the air, close your eyes, take a breath, soon you will realize this world can turn on its own if you leave it alone. You can ride on the wind like a leaf, you can blow, twist and turn. You'll be sure to learn the joy of letting go. Don't hold on to your life. In the end you will know. Say goodbye to the